Sometimes at night, I think about my life and I start crying. Anyway, when's the last time you played Minecraft and you've actually enjoyed the process of enchanting your gear fully? Chances are, a lot of you probably don't, and I'm with you on that one. Because really, enchanting in Minecraft kinda sucks. Personally, I don't think it's a very balanced or fun system at all. And if you think it doesn't have any problems, well, I disagree, but it's a block game. I mean, like, it's really not that deep. Now, let me tell you why you're a disgusting, vile human being who deserves to die a terrible death because of your abhorrent, vile, stinky opinion. I'll split this up into 3 different categories for now, focusing on the issues of 3 different aspects of enchanting: the enchantment table, the anvil, and lastly, the enchantments themselves. After I'm done with one, we'll then discuss some potential reworks and changes. Now let's start with the enchantment table. It's usually the first exposure a player has to enchanting. Look, the enchanting table is ruined by one mechanic: RNG. More specifically, RNG attached to a grind. Whenever you try to enchant anything, you get a list of 2 to 3 random enchants based on how many bookshelves are near the table. Once you get your set, they cannot change unless you enchant another item, costing a level usually. Now what I mean by RNG attached to a grind is because this system is inherently grindy. The thing is, if you get enchants you don't want, which you probably will, you have to grind another level. And when you are a high level, like in the 30s, that takes time. Now, good items should take time to get, but for enchanting, that time spent is not fun. It's not fun to set a mob grinder and just hit left click every so often, and it isn't fun to go to the nether and mine quartz for like 30 minutes. I feel my brains are about to explode from how bored I am. There's no way to reduce the RNG, which isn't fun. Now, I believe there's a simple rework for this, something so many people have just been asking for, to the point where this is basically just regurgitating info. Just allow the player to re-roll enchants. Now, there should be a re-roll cost, but it shouldn't cost levels. It should cost lapis. I mean, it just makes sense, really. Players get stockpiles of lapis because, frankly, it's so easy to get and you use so little of it at a time. So if the re-rolling cost is somewhere between 5 to 10 lapis, that'll be great, since it would give more use to them while lessening the RNG with enchanting tables. Now let's move on to anvils. Now, anvils allow you to repair enchanted armor or enchant your own armor and tools with books. Now, enchanting gear really doesn't have any real problems that I can think about, except for one, and it's a mechanic so bad that I don't know why it exists after the entire community asks for its removal. I'm sure you know what it is. It's the level cap on the anvil. For some godforsaken reason, if the enchant cost on the anvil exceeds 40, you just can't do it. It just is too expensive. Why? Why did they think it was a good idea to have this in a game? Like, Jimmy, we're gonna remove that shit, because frankly, it makes my blood boil. A block game is making my blood boil. This is how you know you've hit rock bottom, folks. Stay unemployed, everyone. I also want to take the time to cover repairing tools. And while it is nice to be able to repair your tools, because the repair cost gradually gets bigger every time you repair them, it just isn't worth it in the long run. This, along with mending being very easy to get, basically makes repairing enchanted tools kinda suck. So what I propose is simply removing this increase and keeping it a constant cost each time. Also, I never really understood why you can either use the raw material or tool to repair stuff when clearly one option is just way better to do so. Personally, using the raw materials just feels cooler to do, so we're just gonna keep that over the regular tools. Except for combining 2 tools with enchantments. Also, just remove mending, alright? It's just too broken. Mending takes away durability management, which is one of the few resource-based challenges left in late-game Minecraft. It makes gear too permanent and passive. I feel like the fixed repair cost would force the player to be more proactive, finding the resources to repair their stuff rather than inacting, just sitting at a mob grinder letting it do everything. Also, when repairing netherite stuff, I think netherite scrap should be used for this instead of regular ingots, since that's just too expensive. Okay, now comes probably the longest part of the video: the enchants themselves. The thing is, Minecraft enchantments are just extremely unbalanced, causing players to use the same sets every single time, causing everything to become monotonous and boring. The places where I think this is the most apparent is sword and armor enchants. First, let's look at the sword. Now let's do a show of hands. How many people have had these enchantments on your sword before in every single world you play? Sharpness, unbreaking, mending, fire aspect, and sweeping edge. Chances are, most of you probably raised your hand. But why though? Well, it's because these enchantments are the best in the game and cover basically everything. Why would you want Smite or Bane of Arthropods when Sharpness basically does the trick most of the time? This set of enchants has 0 weaknesses. It excels at everything, making every other possible set you could come up with pretty much meaningless in some cases. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. Alright, so this is basically a representation of how effective each enchant is. On the y-axis here, you have the effectiveness of each of them, and on the x-axis, you have each of the enchants. Now, what I'm basically gonna do is this. Now, you might notice Bane of Arthropods is gone. So, let's talk about that. Bane of Arthropods is widely considered to be the worst enchant in the game, frankly because the enemies targeted by it are so weak and small that Sharpness already deals with them. So if we were to buff it by just increasing the damage, that wouldn't really solve the problem. People still wouldn't use the enchant. So instead, I propose a more radical change. Introducing Bane of Beasts, an enchant that lets the sword deal more damage to beastly mobs in Minecraft. What's a beast? Well, here's the list I came up with. Spiders, cave spiders, silverfish, endermites, creepers, phantoms, blazes, breezes, piglins and their brute counterparts, ravagers, guardians, and the warden. Now I believe that this is much better than the list that Bane of Arthropods covered, and because a lot of these mobs have pretty high health pools, you're gonna want the extra damage against them. Combined with the sharpness and smite changes, I think this makes swords a lot less like a one-size-fits-all type of deal and gives players more room for specialization and choice. Now, armor suffers the exact same fate, but it's even worse here. Deadass, have you ever seen anybody use something other than Prot 4 on all their armor? You don't, because frankly all the other choices are so bad that it's literally insane. So here's the graph again, alright, and we're gonna do the same thing we did with swords. And here we have it, and where did fire protection go? It's gone because frankly a better version of it already exists in the form of fire resistance. So why would you ever use this enchant? Replacing it is strike protection, a type of protection that guards against melee hits, such as things like swords, zombies, and other melee-based attacks. Since mobs that attack you with melee hits are far more numerous than every other type of damage, it will be a lot less effective than blast and projectile protection, but still a lot more effective than regular protection. And ultimately, I think the overall changes I've proposed greatly improve Minecraft's enchanting system. This is because it adds more quality of life fixes, encourages players to be more proactive, and breaks up the sameness of how players enchant their armor. But that's just me, right? So if you think these ideas are trash, please tell me in the comment section below, alright? And with that, I'll see you in the next one.